and the Starbards. We are on Northern Fjords. Let's get a quick rundown of ships on the Hastelak. Once again, on the Elder God side, we've got Misako captaining. It's got double Merc one side with a Hades up front and a Gatling mortar on the other. And on the Hastur, once again, captained by Valmaron, we've got Gatling mortar up front with a flamethrower and a flare gun on the side. What's on the blue side?
On the blue side, we've got the Soyless Ordum, Pyramidion being flown by Hillerton. It is Hades Flak with an Artemis and a flare gun on the side. We also have a full Nelson. It's a goldfish being flown by Boss Pig. We've got Hwacha up front, Carronade on the port side, and flare gun on the starboard.
Yep, so we'll see what those double Mercs on the Hastelak are able to do. This is kind of almost an old school build, I want to say. The double Merc on one side of a Junker and kind of a kill side on the other. We saw this a lot in the past, but we'll see how well kind of a newer team managed to utilize it. It should be especially effective against the full Nelson, of course, trying to snipe out that front watch. And if they can get that done, that's going to do very, very well for them. But the Solus Artem is coming up behind these two ships. They definitely are trying a little bit of a pincer maneuver here. We'll see if this works out at all. Full Nelson coming into the Hastur, using that watch and knocking out those guns. Good job by a Full Nelson. It is so bad when you're able to knock out basically no components. Great approach here so far by the Starbards.
Stalic getting eaten up by Soyless Ordum, but they are managing to return fire a little bit.
Yep, they are getting some of that armor stripped, and down it goes. Are there mortars to follow? Yes, there are, but I think it's just a little bit out of range. Yep, so the Solus Artem just managing to back up enough. In the meantime, a full Nelson is kind of just sitting around and then disabling some more. We'll see if they actually manage to kill him off here. This is just being some great watch of fire so far, right on point, knocking out all of the things on that ship. It's dead in the water right now.
As Soyless Artem looking to close a little bit of distance, still wanting to maintain that distance that they have between them and the Hastelak, as Hastelak goes after a full Nelson.
And that's not going to do very well. Of course, watches are extremely effective against, especially if you've got burst in there. Let's check it out. Is that burst? Yes, that is in fact burst in that Hwacha. They were expecting to be up close and personal between these ships. And burst Hwacha into a side of a Junker def usually means you're gonna knock out all the components. Hastur in the meantime gets taken out by Solus Artem.
Yep. Full Nelson and Hystelic. Am I saying that right? Hastilic?
Hastilic? Listen, just pronounce it however you want to pronounce it. I don't know how half the ship names are supposed to be pronounced when I'm casting.
Alright, well anyway, Hastilic, balloon down, hull armor down. They're not surviving that.
Yep.
2-0 in favor of Starbards.
Definitely Starbards just, you know, that more experienced team is just showing what experience really does for you, really showing the full benefit of knowing how to approach any given build. It's one thing when you're playing in your pub games and you've got your team and you're rolling through, but when you're starting to face against some of these definitely especially competitively experienced teams, it gets exponentially harder. Full Nelson, Solus Artem know exactly what they're doing right now in every single position. And Hastelak and Hastur they look a little bit indecisive at times. Hastelak was on Solus Artem, then turned to go to Full Nelson. Of course, he wanted to do that to rescue his teammate. But honestly, Hastur should have been able to do a little bit more damage than they did, I think. And we'll see how this ends up now as Full Nelson and Solus Artem are slapping away at Hastur. Full Nelson also not getting shot at by Hastelak. Hastur armor is down. That hasn't been a single.
Ooh. There goes Hastur.
Hastur does go down. It's weird. There's no Hwacha fire going on there, so I don't know what exactly they were saving it for. Maybe for the Hastelak. Not quite certain. Hastelak, of course, now in between a rock and a hard place, or a full Nelson, Solus Artem, if nothing else. Balloon is going down on that Junker.
Yeah, but the Hosta like was able to get the whole armor down, even if it was just for a little bit on the full Nelson. So they I still
Oh,
his
Hostur.
sword.
Yeah, Hostur spawns right back in, but that Watcher Fire took out almost everything on the Hastlick again, getting blended down. Hostur, of course, takes a few seconds for a ship to actually turn and get their members all into the right place, especially when you got to climb on the. Oh god, this is just brutal right now. It's just going meat grinder style. Hostur just gets obliterated by the Solus Artem and Full Nelson. Maybe not the best of spawn spots there, and Hastlick is the last bastion here for the Elder Gods in their first competitive foray.
Ooh, the whole armor goes down. Watcher comes out, and that's game.
And that is GG. So the Starbards will advance, but all in all, I think that was a decent showing for the Elder Gods. You know, they definitely have some things to work on, and honestly, now they know. Now they know what they need to work on. They know, what kind of strengths and weaknesses that they have, and they can definitely go back to the drawing board. Come back next week. Have right back at it. I mean, there are countless amount of teams that basically just did just that. That is what essentially the Sunday Community Skirmish is made for. But guys, that will lead us into our first semifinal between the Starbards and the Riders. I think this is going to be a bit of an uphill climb here, of course, for the Starbards. Riders, very well accomplished team. They really just destroyed the Centurions the last match, but we'll see if the Starbards are able to make anything happen. Of course, on the other side of the bracket, we did have the Clamor and Wings of Daedalus match, which actually got forfeited by Clamor. They were not able to join, so Wings of Daedalus got that on their plate.